Welcome everybody to this webinar on the future of data maximization for the insurance industry. We have a great lineup of panelists joining us today. We have lots of different perspectives in terms of P&C, life, reinsurance, insurance, technology, etc. We have Scott Lee, who's the CRO at AYR, formerly Singularity Systems. Myself, who is moderating the session, Graham Proud, founder of the Lighthouse Collective. We have Patrick Sullivan joining us from New York, Senior Vice President of Integrated Analytics at Munich Re Life. And also Shannon, welcome from Cincinnati, Business Data and Analytics Talent Strategy at Great American Insurance Group. So what are we talking about today, really? We're talking about data, of course, and data is a conversation and a term that we use a lot in insurance. You know, it's something we're battling with. It's something that we're really wielding the power from. And we're talking about extracting value from data. How do we do that? Accepting that we are on a journey of discovery in the sense that there is no one size fits all, there is no single solution. We have to understand what is the insurer's priority or the reinsurer's priority and how do we move forward from that. I think what's really important is that we're not intimidated by the prospect of taking large data sets and making the best of that, whether it's for the business or the customer. And making sure that we make a series of decisions, whether we're talking about the people in the company, whether we're talking about the technology in the company, but coming to a solution where we have the right blend of talent, the right blend of processes to make sure that we are maximizing efficiency and providing the most insightful, valuable solution for our companies. So we've got a lot to talk about today. It's a big topic. I'd like to also introduce my co-host, Scott from AYR, formerly Singularity Systems. Scott, if you'd like to say a few words to say hello before we kick things off and talk about your organization a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Graham. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. Patrick and Shannon, thanks for joining. We're excited about the topic and your expertise and what's going on in the industry. There's a lot changing, and there's a lot of people really interested in what we're talking about today. So AYR, as Graham, you noted, formerly Singularity Systems, not that long ago. We had a name change. Our platform is still Singularity AI, but changed the name of the company to AYR, which actually stands for Are You Ready? Which really resonates with what our mission is as a company. And you kind of see in the background, what we have on our, my background for the screen is welcome to the new era of work. And really that's what the theme of the company and our mission was to a little bit crazy, but really to change the way that we are working. And we do that through focusing on data and unlocking what some people say is almost 80% of the data out there that's unstructured and semi-structured. So we've talked about this many times before. It's definitely something in the insurance space that there's so much unstructured and semi-structured data out there. And what AYR does is we do one thing really, really well in the intelligent document processing space, what we call IDP, and that's focused on unlocking and taking any data that's human readable and making it machine readable and usable. And that's literally our goal. And then to plug into every other system through APIs or direct connects or RPA. So that's what we're about. That's what we're focused on, and excited to be here. And thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, well, let's move on and open the doors to Munich Re and Great American in talking about, and I'm going to ask you guys maybe for a sort of opening statement on what you're working on at the moment. What's your number one project? And take from that what you will in terms of interpretation of how we are organizing data. What are the number one priorities? What are you excited about? I'll turn to you first, Patrick. You're in a great role at Munich Re Life. what are you really focused on at the moment in terms of achieving within the data realm?
Sure. So if we start at a high level, life insurance is a social good. It allows people to protect their families. It allows people to save for the future, but it's cumbersome to get because we make it difficult and intrusive to get underwritten, to get a policy in place for the industry to do the risk assessment. So what we're doing here is we've invested tremendous amount of time and resources in understanding how to use data sources that are already in existence to do that risk assessment, to do the underwriting, to say we can issue a policy instantly, ideally, but certainly not with the usual six or so weeks. So it involves combing through data sets that we have or that we can obtain and understanding exactly what is the relationship between these pieces of data and the mortality and morbidity outcomes that we care about. And that way we can accelerate the process. It always has to be with the applicant's consent. They always have to consent for you to access their data to assess the risk and to buy the product. But that's really where we're focused. I think life insurance is at an inflection point. It's sort of catching up to how data has been used previously in property casualty and credit card. In some ways, it's a harder problem because human physiology is harder to understand than other things. But we're making great progress, and my team is doing the analytics and then deploying solutions that our carrier partners can use.
Thanks, Patrick. That makes sense. And talking about sort of existing data, making the best of that, understanding that completely, and converting that into a risk assessment, that's really important. Scott, have you got an insight on if you meet a carrier and we talk about the data we've already got, the consensual data, and we have this pool of information and we want to convert it into something useful? What's your experience in terms of how well placed the carriers are in terms of those existing data sets? Have we got enough information right now? And do we need to go a step further?
Well, I actually wrote down, Patrick, what you said, talking about using the data that's already there, right? The data is there. It's just a matter of getting it into the hands of those who need to make the decisions. So I think that's all the carriers that we work with, the companies we worked with, say similar things. The data is there. It's just a matter of getting it into a usable format quickly enough to make decisions that make sense for the client and also improve the quality of work for the employees. That's one of the big trends we're seeing with our clients and across the industry is how do you make this more meaningful work for the employees so they're not sitting there line by line reading documents and combing through data. How do you make it more consumable? And I think that's something I'd love to hear more from Patrick and Shannon on, is some of the things that they're working on to make it more consumable. There's a ton of tools out there. How do you wade through them? And then, probably one of the most challenging pieces that we can kind of come back to is through acquisitions, mergers, other organizations coming together, different tools. How do you determine, how do you essentially link those data resources together to make them usable across the different business units?
Thanks, Scott. Okay, Shannon, I'm going to turn to you. Slightly different focus. Of course, Patrick mentioned there is a differentiation between P&C and life in terms of how we're using data. You're looking at it from a talent point of view. So within Great American, organizing that talent, organizing that expertise to make sure that we're extracting the most value from the data we have and then moving the piece forwards in terms of what we can do. What are you working on, Shannon? What are you excited about in terms of the data?
Yeah. So our business and data analytics department is newly formed. It's an enterprise shared service, and we brought in predictive analytics and our data visualization and reporting team, and also the data governance and management, along with our big data with the telematics, all under one umbrella to work together. So I think with any carrier, we're working to get off those legacy systems, being able to have consistent data to use, moving into the cloud, and then tapping into that wealth of unstructured data in our claim files and notes. That purpose is to leverage it for profitability, improving our loss ratios, determining new products and services, but also looking at it a way of how can this data augment our claims process, in auto assigning and triaging claims and pulling those claims out where we feel they need a little more attention. They might be going into that red zone. And then, like Scott said, right, taking those repetitive tasks off the adjusters and managers' plate, having meaningful work for them to do, being able to focus on a claim file and not just moving paper around. So, I mean, it's not a number one project. It's really all encompassing, and we have a really great team that is looking at every aspect of that.
Thanks, Shannon, and thank you also for mentioning the L word, which is legacy, which came up, which has come up a few times. Scott, I don't know if you've got any comments on the back of what Shannon said there, especially around how we're still sort of dealing with legacy, and also what's very interesting from Shannon's point of view is the data claims relationship and how that can really take some pressure and some of the menial tasks away from some of the claims expertise. What do you think on the back of that, Scott?
Well, one thing, Shannon, that you mentioned that I really kind of honed in on is it's not it's like not the number one priority. It's all encompassing, right? So this is the mission, right, across the organization, right, with your teams on both sides is really how do you make this? It's not just a KPI or something that you're focused on, for the next year. How do you really put it as bring it in as part of the culture on how do we take data and make it more usable? And Graham, the L word with legacy systems. I mean, those aren't going away anytime soon, right? I mean, there's definitely different initiatives, but you have to be able to tie those systems together and to utilize the data that's in there. And there's so much data available. You have to make it. I keep coming back to the consumable aspect, and I'd be interested to get both your inputs on how do you make that data more consumable today? What are some of the initiatives that you've seen success with, and maybe what are some of the challenges that you're seeing as well still with the unstructured data?
Thanks, Scott. Well, that probably is a good segue into the next question. And Patrick, I'm going to direct this to you. I'd be really interested to tap into your department and your focus in terms of integrated analytics at Munich Re. What are you looking to achieve at the moment? And maybe you have a comment on Scott's remark around consumable data. What are you looking to achieve? How is that impacting around some of the insurance ecosystem players that Munich Re are working with at the moment? So what's the connection between what you're trying to do and the players that you're working with within the ecosystem?
Sure. So if you look at the raw data that we need to do life insurance underwriting, it's facts about a person's medical condition. And in the United States, all of that data is going online into the form of electronic health records, right? So rather than send somebody for lab testing, rather than ask them endless questions about their health conditions, again, with their consent, we can tap into that information, those electronic health records. But it's quite a challenge to take information that was organized to manage someone's care or to handle billing for medical care and make a life insurance assessment out of that. And so there's aspects that are fairly straightforward, like lab values can be incorporated into machine learning models. But the harder part is the narratives, the doctor's notes, the descriptions. There's just an enormous amount of information. Ideally, it's in a database, but it's often not. As Scott knows, it's often in a PDF that works its way through the hospital or the medical care system. So that's really where we're primarily focused, and it involves working with our cloud providers, tools that are available there, specialist commercial software providers like AYR. But also we've made an acquisition to ensure that there's a pipeline of that type of information into the life insurance industry. So we bought Claretto, which is a provider of electronic health records for the life insurance industry. And we're really making a bet on the future, that the future is going to be driven, underwriting is going to be driven right off of the old electronic databases. And we won't have to send people out for intrusive testing.
Thanks, Patrick. There's a couple of comments there, which I think are really important around sort of non-conventional or complex data inputs, you know, doctor's notes, all of these sort of things which form the basis of, you know, this is difficult data to extract information from and then make a decision. There are simple inputs and there are more sort of non-digestible inputs, right, which you're talking about. Scott, have you got a comment on that? This is a big problem for insurance, isn't it? Because these are the nuances of how we make a risk assessment, yet we're not able to very quickly convert that or translate that into decision making.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, and I mean, it's been a problem forever, right? And you know, I think we're starting to see some really significant progress with some of the breakthroughs we've had in IDP and AI, and the way that models are being merged together. So you know, an example, something that we've done that we've had good success with is what we call AI Pathfinder. You know, the tools, we haven't invented anything new tool-wise. The tools have been around for a while. Patrick and Shannon are very familiar with OCR and computer vision and NLP, natural language processing. And there's other tools that kind of go around that. The way they've been used so far has been a challenge. And where we've had some good breakthroughs with some of our clients on the variability of the data is when you start to merge those technologies to where they're working at the same time, the way the human brain does. So you can look at a document, understand what it is, understand that, oh, that's similar to a document I've seen, even though it's not the exact same document that I've seen, right? So that's where templates fall apart, right? If you build it, you can build a template for anything. But once it sees something that it's not been trained to do, it kind of falls apart. That's been the challenge with traditional RPA and IDP and OCR technologies. Is now we're starting to see some pretty significant breakthroughs where computer vision, NLP, so it's much like the way the human brain works, where we can make decisions around the data, extracting what is necessary. We're not making decisions at all about what to do with the data. That's the carrier's job, right? But we're able to look at a document, a scanned PDF, handwritten doctor's notes, you know, something that's kind of blurry or fuzzy, and say, oh, I know exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for these you know, metrics that, you know, need to go into a medical report or a risk assessment. So we've seen significant breakthrough in the last year that are really making a big difference on how you get that data out, because as Patrick knows, the biggest problem is the variability of the data. Every single document is different. Every single scanned PDF, doctor's notes, every hospital, every doctor's office, they're all using completely different forms. Even when you try to digitize on the front end, you know, human nature kicks in and you get what you get. So dealing with that has been, we've seen there's exciting things happening, but we still have quite a ways to go.
Thanks, Scott. I mean, there's always been a joke in the UK around doctors' handwriting and nobody can understand it. And if you want to understand what the doctor actually has written, you take it to a pharmacist because they're the only person that can interpret it. But there we go. Shannon, can we just switch focus a little bit? It is very much worth talking about the human expertise here and the talent. And it's really interesting to hear how someone like Great American Insurance are, you know, what is their perspective on data expertise, bringing in the right people, bringing in the right individuals to deal with these challenges, because, you know, we're grappling with them all of the time. As Scott said, this is a long going challenge. What's going on with the Great the Great American talent at the moment and how you're approaching that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about what we're doing at Great American, and we're really committed to attracting that talent to bring into the organization, but also looking at really like 3 tenets, right? They attract the talent, develop what we have, and retain. And part of my role in business data and analytics is to look at the brilliant talent that we have, the projects we have coming up. Are there skill sets that we need to develop and grow to get us to those projects, and how do we go about doing that, and giving our people, you know, really meaningful, exciting work to do, because we do have that. You know, we're looking at machine learning and AI and natural language processing and all of this. But then I think the industry as a whole, not just Great American, we have to do a better job of telling our story about the exciting things we're doing to start attracting that data and technology students or roles to insurance, that you really do have a place with the traditional carrier. We're working on interesting things. There's meaningful work. We are trying to be cutting edge, and you don't just have to look at an insurtech or a startup space to have that. We do have that in a traditional insurance carrier. So it's exciting. It's a big role. We've been doing a lot of communicating, and I think it really speaks volumes to Great American commitment to take the talent that we have, and you know, they're important to us. We want to keep them, and we want to help them grow.
Great. And just a quick question to you and Patrick. Have you got a sort of graduate scheme? Have you got some young guys coming into your data analytics teams in terms of straight out of university? You know, the insurance industry is grabbing these people and bringing them in.
Yeah, we certainly do, and I can't emphasize enough how important things Shannon was talking about. It's really a talent game right now, and we have to do a better job telling our story. One thing that helps, though, is that because we're sort of have been behind in technology, now we're leapfrogging. So our tech stack is actually quite advanced. And in terms of recruiting, we're on campus at Cornell a lot, and Waterloo in Canada, University of Toronto. And we're explaining to people that we have the very latest technology. You won't get pigeonholed into doing one thing. Like the type of team that Shannon's building, we give people different opportunities to move around, both engineering and data science. And then at the end of the day, you know, the big tech what's big tech doing? It's often, you know, about selling advertising. We're helping people improve their lives or save for the future. A lot of the work we're doing now is can we use data to understand how people with chronic conditions who manage them well can get insurance and get a better rate for insurance. So we're working at it, but I would agree completely with Shannon that we have a lot of work to do to make our environment as attractive as possible to the talent we need.
Yeah, I think the narrative has shifted slightly as well in terms of insurance. And when we're talking about life insurance, if you compare today perhaps to a few years ago, there is definitely the possibility for individuals to make a positive impact on how people are living their life and how people are making sure that they are, you know, mitigating risk against serious health problems and all of that sort of stuff through the data proposal and through how we convert that information into lifestyle choices, etc., and mitigating that risk. So I think that's a really positive piece, and I think insurance has come a long way in terms of that. Scott, I'm just going to turn to you in terms of just a little bit of a review of 2022, the conversations you've had with insurance companies in terms of how they are embracing data, how we're organizing it, how we are achieving what we want to achieve. What's been your experience with sort of clients and the voices that you've heard throughout the last 12 months? How are we doing?
We're picking up steam dramatically. I think in 2022, we had a lot of conversations around, just to be honest, there's been a lot of automation fatigue. There's been a lot of talk around AI for the last 3 or 4 years, and there's been some disappointments, to be honest, when we look at our industry, the intelligent automation industry, because I think too many people kind of hung their hopes and dreams on RPA which has been good. RPA has served its purpose, and it remains, valuable as we move forward, but it's really only handling some of that structured swivel chair work, which is important work to get off the plates of humans, right? So it is important work, but what's been a struggle for a lot of our clients we talked about is, okay, we've done that, what's next? And we've done a lot of projects, a lot of POCs, we've tried a lot of different technologies, and it's been a bit frustrating because it takes longer than it should. People are like, oh, we just want to do a quick POC and we could do it in a few weeks. And 9 months later, they're like, listen, this was supposed to be quick. So there's a little bit of that for what we call automation fatigue in the industry, Graham. But we have seen people on the insurance side be willing to move faster because of really what Patrick and Shannon are talking about, because there's so much value in the data that as soon as they can get the data into a usable format, there's so many amazing things that can be done with that data. And that's the most important thing, is to get it into the hands of the data analytics teams and let them do the exciting work that is why they're able to attract top talent, right? That's the fun stuff people want to work on, not getting the data out. That's frankly the boring part. So we talk about, we do the boring hard part so you don't have to, so you can have fun with the data, because there's life-changing things that can be done. Patrick kind of alluded to it from the medical standpoint. So those are a lot of the conversations we had in 2022. What we're really focused on moving forward is, okay, we've kind of proven that we can take that data and get it into a usable format. What's next? How do we keep going? There's so much more we can do. And then being part of the strategic conversation on what are the use cases we haven't even thought of yet. So some of the traditional use cases like claims and underwriting, where so much of that unstructured data sits, we've really been trying to knock those down. And it's amazing in 2022, especially here in the US, how much is still hasn't been done with unstructured data when it comes to claims and underwriting. So we're making good progress, but I think what's even more exciting is some of the use cases that we're starting to uncover now that the carriers know it's possible.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Sort of slightly running short of time here, so I'm going to just look to you guys for some summaries and some visions into the future. It's very clear that there's a lot of potential out here. We have a huge amount of talent coming in to the industry. We have a lot of data. There's a lot of opportunity. Patrick, what are the next step? What's the next big thing for you? If you look ahead for the next 1 or 2 years, what could we possibly achieve? And from a Munich Re point of view, what is the next big step for you guys?
So our team's been in place for a few years now and done a lot of R&D work. I mean, for us now, it's really to get the assessments, whether they be machine learning based or more simple rules based, out of the PowerPoints and out of our laptops into solutions that our clients can use. So rather than have to staff out a whole team and a whole function to do what we're already doing, can they just tap into our risk assessment? And so that's products that we're bringing to market right now. That'll be our focus for the next couple of years. And to be honest, I think it's gotten so complicated with so many different sources of data and the demands to have top flight engineering and data science that there's still so many life insurance companies that they're not going to do it themselves. They're happy to tap into what we are making available. That's really going to be our focus for the next couple of years.
Very good. And Shannon, what are you looking to achieve over the next sort of 12 months, 24?
Yeah, we're going to continue to build up our talent pool and pull in those key players. But I think, like in our group, what we're going to look at in some projects we haven't played is with the unstructured data, using that natural language processing so we can, look at the severity of the claim. Also to look right at the book of business. Are there things that we can pinpoint and out of those claim files if they're a constant offender of claims? But what we're learning is we have to get people on board maybe with some consistency because we're pulling some of that data, and staff adjusters can write named insured about 50 different ways, and you find that, and then the context behind it, because there's a lot of medical records and what's important to us and what do we need to know. So I think those are some of the goals for that team working on the unstructured data.
Thanks, Shannon. Scott, some final comments from you before we sign off.
Yeah, I'm excited about what we talked about today. I'm excited about what I see the industry doing. I think there's more and more of what Shannon and Patrick are focused on with advanced analytics and bringing in the right talent and embracing technologies that are like, okay, we have to move forward. There's so much that we can do, and we're starting to see the industry move much faster, which is exciting for us, and I think for everyone out there, because there's so much more we can do to create a more positive experience for the employees and for the customers. And technology is definitely something that can help us get there. I think so often some people are maybe scared of technology, or are a little bit slow to embrace it. I know we are here in the US, but we're starting to see that change over the last couple of years. And I think people are saying, oh, technology can improve my life. And seeing that across the insurance industry is pretty exciting, because there's so much that can be done. So everything we've talked about today, I think, Munich Re and Great American are great examples of where that's happening. We're excited to be a part of that journey. We're excited to work with them and other carriers across the industry to kind of help change the way that we work. Yeah,
brilliant, Scott. And I think what's been really great for me to hear is the obvious commitment from both Patrick and Shannon to bring in talent and to continue the conversation around how can the blend between human and tech expertise really reach our potential, and how can we wield the best results here in terms of risk assessment, what we can do for customers. There's so much out there to achieve, and I think everything's on the table in terms of all of the component parts. We have the data sets, we have brilliant people working with the data sets, we have innovative technology that can help fast track some of the processes. So let's keep moving forward. So I think it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. And I think, as you say, Scott, we're moving quicker and quicker, and it's thanks to you guys that we're moving quicker towards the end goal. So I'd just like to say thank you to you all, Scott, Patrick, and Shannon. It's been brilliant to hear all of your insights. Good luck with everything that's going on with AYR, Munich Re, and Great American. You're all doing so well, and we will keep our eyes on future developments. It's good morning, good afternoon, good evening from me and from everybody else, and we'll see you soon. And do connect with us on LinkedIn. Get in touch if you've got any questions, comments. We're here, ready and available. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day and see you soon.
Thanks, Graham.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate it.